Hi ho ho, it's me, Paul Giamatti, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast, and as always, I'm joined by Babby.
Wow.
We have a slam dunk episode planned as always. Don't have a lot to talk about. It's been kind of a slow week in terms of news. It's been a very busy week for me. I am a mailman.
It was a holiday weekend.
It was a holiday weekend. It was Black Friday into Cyber Monday. These last few days have been crazy. So, yeah, I've not had a chance to watch a lot of movies, but yesterday I had my day off and I decided to go and see a hit new release in theaters. And I want to get this out of the way. We'll talk about this movie a little later. And by a little later, I mean like in 2 minutes. But I want to get this in the beginning of the podcast because I want everyone who's listening to this podcast to go see this movie because it might be my movie of the year. And I don't think a lot of people are going to see it. It's The Holdovers. I don't even know if people know about this
I have
movie.
no idea what that is.
I didn't know anything about it until a couple days ago. I've mentioned Film Spotting before, a very good movie review podcast. They talked about it because this is the new Alexander Payne vehicle. Well, not vehicle, joint, I guess. A very, I don't want to say he's like super well known, but he's made like a couple like, I don't want to say but like kind of under the radar hits, I guess you could say. Like he made like Election with like Matthew Broderick. And like he's made like a couple other movies that I had heard of, but I hadn't really heard of his stuff. But I guess people in the know really like his movies, and I was like, okay, well I'll go see it. It's been getting really good reviews. It has a crazy letterboxed thing. Everybody's giving it like 4.5 or 5 stars, and I'm like, oh boy, we'll see how good this is because it's a Christmas movie, first of all, and yeah, not usually a fan of those. But I'm like, fine, I'll go see it. I guess, time to get in the spirit of things, I suppose. So I went and saw it, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think it's my new favorite Christmas movie. It's definitely my kind of Christmas movie. I don't tend to like, when it comes to Christmas movies, my favorite for the longest time, maybe forever, has been the Charlie Brown Christmas special because it's so simple and quaint and cozy and comfy. It's not loud or in your face with colors. It's just like, yeah, it's the most comfortable Christmas movie, I think. Although a second is Christmas Vacation, just because that's really funny.
It's a banger.
It's a banger.
The only Christmas movie I watch.
Yes, that one. I think the first two Home Alone movies are pretty good too.
Yeah, I suppose those are Christmas movies.
Yeah, you don't really think of them as Christmas movies, but they both take place during Christmas because that's like they're going on vacation for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this one's a little different. I think we'll just talk about it now because the one other thing I'm going to talk about is going to take 2 seconds, which maybe I should do that first, but whatever. Let's just get out of the way. 7 hours ago, as of us recording this, it was announced that the Arkham trilogy is coming to Switch, and with that, the Robert Pattinson Batsuit thing is coming to that Switch version, and then it is going to be added to other consoles at a later date. But I think I'm going to do a deep dive on the Arkham games coming up here soon because I am playing through them all right now. I'm on City right now. Getting I'm about halfway to the platinum trophy. I don't think it's going to take that long in comparison to some of the other ones. But I don't know if that's going to be a Boy Time mini or if that's going to be a thing on here. I don't know. It depends. Babby, are you interested in hearing a retrospective on the Arkham games?
Better than Star Wars.
Okay, it'll be on the main thing then. I do. That's kind of what I want to have the Boy Time minis for. Is for like, I don't want to bore Babby, have him sit through an hour of something he doesn't care about. So like, if there is a Star Wars thing, I'll just put it over there, and it'll just be me talking about it. Because if I do bring it up on the podcast here, anyways, it's just me talking and no one says anything. So I'm like, why even put you guys through that? So that's what I'm going to do with the Boy Time minis, I think. So they aren't going to happen all the time, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, I don't
In the
know.
future, we could probably do collab ones.
That's true.
We
Yeah.
just need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because currently I'm very slow at watching and playing things. So
That's okay.
well, we're in a Twin Peaks deep dive right now, so that
Oh.
might be of interest eventually.
I have been meaning to rewatch that.
It's really good now that I understand what's going on a little bit.
Yes. Yes. I recently rewatched the Red Letter Media review of The Return. It's like
Yeah.
2 hours. They split it up into two parts. And it's very good. It really does a good job of like laying out what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I understand. Well, also like some of those explained videos or whatever, they come off like kind of like snotty or whatever, where it's like, oh, this is what it really means, and this is the definitive thing. It's like nothing about any David Lynch thing is definitive. Like,
yeah, there's a correct answer, but he's never going to tell you. So at that point, it's like whatever you get out of it, that's the goal.
Yeah. And I think his stuff is so open ended where it's like any interpretation is correct. Like there's probably things that he thought of when he was making it, and there are certain themes that carry over a lot of his stuff, but a lot of his stuff elicits an emotional reaction that is going to be different for everybody, and everything is valid. Even me, who doesn't like them, for the most part. But yeah, we might do that. That would be fun. I'll have to
Eventually.
Yeah.
We're on like episode 12, so we have a couple.
Of The
I
Return.
think there's 18, in The Return. I watched the movie again too, and it's fantastic.
Fire Walk with Me is great.
It's so good.
It's kind of like interesting. I think because like everything that David Bowie says in his one scene in Fire Walk with Me is like it's expanded on in The Return, which happened like 25 years after that movie came out.
We were halfway like through The Return. We hit that episode, and then we're like, okay, you haven't seen the movie yet, so we need to watch the movie because this will make a lot more sense.
Yeah. Well, and he brings up like Judy, and Judy's like a big part of season 3. When it's like a offhand, we're not going to talk about Judy at all.
25 years later.
25 years later, there's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. Which, I mean, I think it's a great thing. If David Lynch is done, what a way to go out, you know? But who knows? He's no longer doing his weather report, which means something's up.
I'm so sad.
I know. I don't know if he's still making music. That was what he was doing for a while. After Twin Peaks 3, and I know he does like
do
sculptures.
a David Lynch music deep dive. That might be interesting.
I don't know anything about it, but I know that a lot of his music is collaborating with Angelo Badalamenti, who does all the music for most David Lynch things. Honestly, Laura's theme from Twin Peaks might be one of my favorite score things ever. So good. Which we're going to be talking about music a little bit with the movie we're going to be talking about. But yes.
Yeah, eventually.
Twin Peaks, because we did talk about it when we
We
were.
did, but I think we were both baby idiots that didn't know what was happening for 90% of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's something that you get immediately,
No.
because everything's kind of vague. I think that's true with every single David Lynch
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I'd definitely be interested now that I kind of know what happens. I mean, the first two seasons are pretty self-explanatory,
Mm.
kind of. Except I don't know
In a
why
way.
the lady is still stuck in a dresser somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's just chalked up to David Lynch left and they were trying to do a David Lynch.
Oh yeah, but then they
Because
didn't
there's
really
no
know.
connecting tissue anywhere in the series with that.
Yeah, and then they didn't even bring it up in the third
No.
season, so we don't know. Although I guess the other sheriff wasn't in the third season, so there isn't like,
Yeah.
yeah, which I don't know if that's ever
I think he
been.
was just done
It's
acting.
just
So
done.
they just like, yeah,
Okay, bring in the
they just like
vacuum guy from
brought
Breaking
in.
Bad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. That would be fun. I don't know if I would have a whole lot to add to the discussion for that, but
Hmm.
we can do some stuff. We can talk about it. That would be a fun
Eventually. That
one.
might be like a beginning of next year thing after list week is done. So we will have lists soon.
Yes. Yes. I don't know when that's going to be. I need to see if there's any other big movies coming out that I need to see. I'm not going to watch Napoleon. I don't care. Um, honestly, I thought my list was pretty set in stone, but this kind of messed everything up. So we'll see. I need to see if there's anything.
That's why I'm hoping no music comes out.
You might be fine.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't have a whole lot of time left for something to surprise drop, but I suppose it's possible. So then, I guess without further ado, we'll talk about the Holdovers. A great little picture I saw yesterday. Uh, I often like to talk about my theater experience whenever I go to the theaters because sometimes it's great and sometimes it's weird. This one was a weird one because it was all old people. And of course, I got there a little early. I got a seat in the middle of the back. You got to reserve your seats now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Worst COVID thing that ever happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were like starting to be a thing before COVID, and then COVID happens. Like, okay, now everywhere you have
Yeah.
to reserve seats. So, yeah, it is what it is. But right before the movie started, a group of four elderly people all came in and sat right in front of me in the middle, just one row down. And like, oh no, are they going to be talking and checking their phone,
Sleeping.
sleeping? I don't care if they're sleeping as long as they aren't snoring, which nobody did. In fact, they were really enjoying it, which I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm glad that this is kind of universal, especially given how vulgar this movie is. It's not a family friendly Christmas movie, I guess you could say. There's no like nudity or anything, it's just language. But yeah, so it was kind of weird. I think I brought the average age of the theater down like 20 years, because everyone else was old. And it was like a 5 o'clock show on what was it, on a Monday. So I guess, maybe people aren't out of work yet or whatever, and only old people go to those shows, but whatever. So yeah, the movie, very briefly, I don't want to go into spoilers or anything, but I do want to talk about a lot of things about this movie because it's a very, very interesting. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, not related to the plot, but I guess the general plot is that it takes place in a boarding school, and it takes place during Christmas break, and I think it's a Christian boarding school. It takes place in 1970. And it follows Paul Giamatti, who I have not seen in like a leading role. He's usually like a character actor man. I think the only other leading role I've seen him in is Lady in the Water, the M. Night Shyamalan flick, which I don't even think we finished. I don't even know if we got halfway. I think we got like 20 minutes into
We
it and
got
turned it off.
so bored of that one.
That one
I
was
think we
very,
did that after the village. So after the village, we were kind of just done.
yeah. And the village isn't that bad, but it's just like
No, the village is good, but like,
boring.
yeah,
And then
you can
you
only
go
handle so
into,
much Shyamalan.
yeah, that's true. Especially like we were doing the bad ones.
Yes.
So yeah, not the best. And not even like the entertaining bad ones. We didn't watch The Happening.
No,
It was
which
like
is probably the best bad one that he's done.
I think that one's fun in a bad
Mark
way.
Wahlberg in anything is hilarious to me.
No,
So
that's true. I can't take him seriously.
yeah, he's like 4'7".
Well, yeah. Yeah. And he's like an action hero now.
Yeah,
I was just like, okay, you were in the
he,
Funky Bunch.
he would have stopped 9/11 if he was on the plane.
Did he say that? I've heard
That's my
that
favorite
before.
Mark Wahlberg quote.
Okay. I forgot. Like I've heard him. I think I've heard that. Yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely said that.
After he said that, I can't take him seriously at
Oh,
all.
of
So
course, of
it
course.
makes so much sense with the roles he gets. So
Yeah, it's all like big action man
yeah,
or porn star in Boogie Nights. Or Transform. Yeah, that's like it's weird. Like in the beginning of his career, he was doing like Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and now he's doing like
yeah,
Transformers movies. It's like what an arc.
whatever pays the bills.
I suppose so. He has to maintain that weirdo lifestyle he has where he gets up at like 3 a.m.
Oh
and
yeah,
prays for half an hour.
yeah.
Which, maybe too long.
He seems like a Scientology kind of guy, but I
He
think he's just like
does.
I don't know.
I
He's
don't
got that
think
kind of
so.
vibe.
I don't think he's a Scientologist. I think he's Christian.
He's just really Christian.
And yeah. Yeah. And his family beat up Vietnamese people.
Oh yeah, I think that happened too. Yeah, he beat up like a Korean guy
Yeah.
in like the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. He committed a hate crime.
He did.
Is the fancy word for it. But it's fine. Who cares? Put him in the movie.
It was so long ago.
It
It's
was
Mark
so
Wahlberg.
long ago. He's so charismatic. I don't even know if that's true. But I guess back to the film. It follows Paul Giamatti. He's a curmudgeonly old not really a professor because it's a boarding school, but it's like a high school. So I guess he's just a teacher. But he's old and everybody hates him. He's the, I guess, Carl Fredricksen in this formula. And then it starts off and it's a big group of, not big, but there's like 5 kids that stay behind where all of the other kids go home for winter break. But these guys all stay because, well, they all have different reasons. But eventually it gets whittled down to just the main guy. I think he's played by Dominic Sessa. This is his first role, which I think that's what a lot of people are talking about in relation to this movie is like what a breakthrough performance, just like out of nowhere, which I have to agree. It's very, very good. But I won't really get into the reasons why because I don't want to get really into spoilers at all because I really want everyone to see this movie. But yeah, it's the relationship between the teacher and the student, and also in the equation is like, I think she's like the head of the like kitchen, and her thing is that like, well, she's staying behind. She's the one person that's running the kitchen for everybody who's been left behind. And her thing is that her son was recently killed in Vietnam. And so she's like, well, I don't want to go home. I don't want to, it feels weird to celebrate with him being dead. And so there's a whole lot of interesting things with that too, because this is kind of it's like a private school. It's like a lot of rich people go there, but her son made it in. I think it was through scholarship. And yeah, the thing with that is that like they're black, and so it's like this. Everybody who goes to this high school doesn't get drafted except for the one black student that goes to the school because that's what happened when drafting stuff was happening. It was not the rich people, the rich white people that were going. It was the underprivileged people. There's a whole Creedence Clearwater Revival song about it, believe it or not, and it's the one in every single Vietnam movie. But yeah, there's also a whole lot of irony. There's irony in the movie, and there's also irony for the audience, where it's like she's talking about this and her son, like he wanted to go to Harvard, but like she couldn't afford to send him there, and he couldn't afford to pay for it himself, and so he's like, well, hey, the army called and I gotta go. At least this way, I'll be able to pay for college with the GI Bill. And I don't know if the old people caught it, but I'm like, that's ironic in two different ways, where she's like, he was gonna go to college, and it's like he can't, and like that was his one dream, was to go to college, and it's just this dramatic kind of, is it dramatic irony? I don't know. Maybe the dramatic irony is that we, the audience, know that like black people were denied access to the GI Bill after Vietnam. So even if he did make it home, he would like be probably worse off than he was before he left. So there's a whole lot of, I don't want to say there's a whole lot of like this social current under, like that's definitely a part of it because she is a major character. And they do talk about Vietnam a little bit, but that's definitely not the focus. The focus is on these two main characters by Paul Giamatti and Dominic Sessa. So, yes, that's kind of the vibe. Or curmudgeonly old man, and then there's the student who's kind of a rapscallion. He's really smart, but he also gets up to a lot of trouble. I think this movie is best described as if Up meets Dead Poet Society meets Good Will Hunting.
A perfect combo.
A perfect combination. Up just for Carl Fredricksen, Dead Poet Society because of the student teacher relationship, and then Good Will Hunting because really smart guy gets up to trouble. And like kind
My
of
favorite kind of guy.
yeah. Well, it's not he doesn't like just get up to. It's like kind of he's masking his brilliance, because he's scared of success, like that DJ Khaled album.
Suffering from success, I believe is the title.
Yes, close enough. But yeah, that's the kind of dynamic they got there, and I think going into it, I didn't really know anything about it, but after that initial setup, where I'm like, okay, over the course of the movie, the old curmudgeonly guy is gonna learn to be, less grumpy, and he's gonna learn to be loving and let love into his heart, and then the rapscallion's gonna learn to be a genius, and everything's gonna be, and then the mom is gonna forget about her dead son. I didn't think that, but that would be like the general arc. Everybody starts off and they're all damaged, like Joker's forehead, and
specifically.
these are like very specific references I've been doing. I don't know if anyone's gonna get these.
It makes sense.
Well,
if you listen to this podcast, you know what we're talking about.
Okay. They all start off damaged, But then over the course of the movie, they all learn to be like a chosen family. And I love those types of movies. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Up is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I definitely am a big fan of the chosen family dynamic, especially with like people who don't have great, I guess, given families. Is that the alternative?
I suppose.
Birth family? I don't know. So I do like those types of movies, but it's not really not. I mean, those elements are all there because they do learn to like be there for each other. But by the end of the movie, like Paul Giamatti's teacher guy is still an asshole. I mean, he's an asshole throughout the entire. I hate this guy. Like if I met this guy in person, like I don't. I think I would hate his guts. Like he is the most like actually guy ever. Like there's a scene where he's like sitting at the bar and there's like a Salvation Army Santa like drinking a beer and he's talking to the bartender and he's like, "Hey, did you know? I'm going to tell you something that you might not know. Did you know that Saint Nicholas was actually a 4th century Greek saint who was living in modern day Turkey, so your costume that you're wearing is historically inaccurate. A robe and sandals would be more fitting. Although, I suppose with the weather, your current getup should suffice." And I'm like, shut up. Nobody asked. Why? Who are you? He's just sitting there with a beer and he's like, I'm gonna insert myself and show everybody how smart I am. And that's like towards the end of the movie. That's he's he's still just the worst. But everybody, I don't want to say everybody's kind of the worst, but like definitely the student is also not. I don't know. I don't know. Everyone thinks the student's an asshole, but like I was on his side pretty much the entire time. Like he definitely has like a rough childhood, and there's a lot of like stuff that you find out about like why he's been left behind over the course of the movie. So yeah, I don't know. Just really really great character dynamics here. I'm gonna talk about music because I don't usually talk about music unless it's really really good, and this
Or
soundtrack
really,
is
really
or
bad.
really really bad. But I'm usually not one to notice that unless it's really out of place. The two things I'm going to talk about right next to each other are things I don't usually bring up because I don't notice them. Like people bring up, oh, the music in this sucked, but it's like it just sounds like score music to me. Like I don't. And maybe this is a greater conversation we could be having about how I react to music and that like I don't get, for the most part, like things have to be kind of flashy and in my face for me to get it. Like the kind of like subtlety of like a good score, or hell, even some of the music we react to just goes completely over my head because I am dumb. And that's just not how I react to music. But this one, the music was so good and it was implemented so well that I was like, whoa, this is fantastic. And it's kind of a jukebox soundtrack. There's a lot of music from the time that you would expect in it. Like there's some Allman Brothers Band. There's a Cat Stevens song in there. There's some Temptations. So there's like some music that you would expect in there, but like the first song you hear in the movie is by a guy named Damien Jurado from an album that came out in 2008. So it isn't like just music from the times, although I think there's a lot of music that is diegetic because a lot of this, takes place in one location. So people are listening to music, they're watching TV from the time, and they're talking about it. And it's just like that kind of stuff. But the music in this was so good that I downloaded the soundtrack and I was listening to it today while I was at work, and I don't usually do that. I don't really listen to soundtracks, hardly ever, unless it's really really good. But I was listening to it. It's very good. It's very like, and this is kind of what I was talking about with Charlie Brown, is that this soundtrack is so comfortable. It's a lot of like, it's very Jerry core, I guess you could say, where it's guy and a guitar, finger picking guitar, folk type stuff. So right up my alley, but also completely fits the tone of the movie, where the movie is very small scale, but it's all very intimate, which I think, we've definitely talked about this on the channel before, where it's those kind of stripped back acoustic songs are often like the best way to portray emotion, because it's like, it's just an, like, there's no,
You can't hide.
you can't hide, and it's like a one-to-one, you are directly communicating with you, there's no distractions, it's just the guitar is there to provide some rhythm, but I'm gonna give this message to you. And so that's kind of what's going on in the movie, and why every bit of music here works. So yeah, just really 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 well done with the soundtrack here. And also, playing into the whole intimate comfy factor of this, is that the movie is, I don't know if it's 4:3, but it is pillar boxed, which I think it remains pillar boxed the whole time. I don't think it ever shifts. But again, I hardly ever notice when stuff does shift. Like, people complain about like Christopher Nolan movies, and I think I have even complained about it in the past, where it's like, he records on two different types of cameras depending on what type of scene he is shooting, and because of that, the aspect ratio changes, which I will say that is kind of lame. Like, that's a lame excuse to have an aspect ratio change, because I think an aspect ratio change should correspond with a major event, or a tonal shift. But it's like Batman at a courtroom or whatever, and Batman riding a motorcycle to Batman flipping a truck or whatever. It's like, it's all Batman, and it's, the tone is the same. I don't know. But I don't usually notice them until I see it get pointed out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's weird. But yeah, I mean, I know we've joked about the Zack Snyder Justice League. This movie is in
That's
4:3
because he
aspect ratio.
sucks, and if you have to put that at the beginning of the movie, you're corny and stupid.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's playing into the author's vision or whatever. Which, if we want to talk about that, the whole reason that it's in 4:3 is because it's shot on IMAX cameras. And IMAX film is in 4:3, but it's such a high resolution that they usually crop it to be letterboxed anyways. So basically, what they did for that Justice League is that they just left it uncropped, which doesn't do anything. In fact, most of the time when you're shooting, you have like guides in place, so you're gonna know when it's gonna where it's gonna get cut off, and then you can frame accordingly. So I don't know. I would imagine that a lot of the shots in that movie are, they have way too much space on the top and bottom because it's uncropped. But I don't know. I haven't seen the film, but that's just what I would imagine. But I think that a pillar box movie does a whole lot to add to that very intimate emotional setting. Like, we are in a kind of confined place, and the characters are too. They are stuck in this boarding school because they can't leave. They're not supposed to like leave the school or the surrounding area. Like it is like you are supposed to stay here. You're gonna watch the kids, make sure none of them die before break ends or whatever. They can die after that, I guess. So, you know, it does go a long way, the aspect ratio, into kind of you. I don't want to say you're kind of going crazy with them because it's not that type of movie. It's not The Shining, which The Shining should have been in 4:3. That would have been great. You know, going along with what I was saying, but well, Stanley Kubrick's dead. Otherwise, you know, maybe we could convince him to do a remake of it, which he would have absolutely done, because we know how he felt about remakes. I actually don't know how he felt, but I imagine that he would not do it. But going to talk about one more thing about this movie that I thought was very, very well done, and also gives me a chance to flex a little bit about film knowledge. We're going to talk about business and blocking. Those are the two B's when you are when you're setting up your shot. You got business and blocking, and what are they? Well, they're very, very similar. But imagine you're having a scene where two people are having a conversation. For example, I'll just use a very like this is usually I think it's easiest to demonstrate in like a scene of exposition because you kind of have to. I think I've seen a lot of bad. Well, we've definitely seen a lot of bad movies where there is like exposition and it's just shot, a reverse shot of two people sitting on a couch, and it's just back and forth as they talk. Well, one character talks, and then one other says, "Wait, really?" It's like, yes, it is true. This is why this is. And that just goes on for 2 minutes, and it's boring. But what makes an exposition scene like that less interesting than a exposition scene in the only other exposition thing I can think of that is well done is in A New Hope, which sorry to bring up Star Wars, but I think it's a movie that a lot of people have seen and probably know the exact scene I'm talking about. But it's the famous scene where they're on the I don't know how famous it is, but it's the scene when they're on the Millennium Falcon. They're heading to well, they're I guess they're whatever. They're leaving Tatooine, and Luke has that helmet on, and he can't see, and he's blocking the lightsaber bolts. And Obi-Wan is explaining the Force, which, you know, in any other type of bad movie, it would have been, you know, back on Tatooine, Obi-Wan's house, and he's just explaining the Force to Luke, and they're sitting down, and it's shot reverse shot. And now it's very boring because nobody cares. They just want to see cool space fights and lightsabers hitting each other, right? So what do? You gotta add some business. Business is what characters are doing in any scene. So there's a lot of business going on because Luke is training. He has his lightsaber out. Very interesting and cool. Special effects are very neat. Obi-Wan's chilling. And then in the background, Chewbacca is playing chess with C-3PO, and he's getting very angry. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. It's a very lived-in world, and we are a fly on the wall just watching an actual conversation that is happening between two people, a teacher and a student, as he is explaining something to his student, which is very interesting. There's a lot of scenes like that in many movies, like Good Will Hunting, or the Dead Poets Society, or this movie. But blocking is where those people are. So that chair, you know, when you're setting up your frame, it's like, okay, Alec Guinness, you're going to be chilling here. Mark Hamill's going to stand here. Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew, you're going to chill here. And yeah, whatever. So that's your blocking. And so if a character moves, it is point to point. You know, when you've seen like, I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, on sets, you know, there's like little tape markers on the floor where it's like, okay, you are going to be at marker A and you are going to move to marker B, you know, after this line or whatever, to change up the shots, make it more interesting. And I don't, it's been a while since I've seen that New Hope scene, but I don't think anyone moves. It's just camera movement where it's like we're close up on Mark Hamill, close up on Alec Guinness, close up on Chewbacca, wide shot, stuff like that. So, but if you've seen like movies where, or even TV shows or whatever, while they're having a conversation, someone gets up and goes to the other room, and then comes back, that's blocking. But if someone goes to the other room, grabs something, and gives it to another person, that's business and blocking. See how they kind of work hand in hand like
Double
that?
B.
It's a double B. So, why do I bring that up about this movie? Well, I do kind of want to flex that I know those things. But also, a lot of the a lot of the movie is just people talking in the same locations. They're all in this one school. And so a lot of the scenes take place in the same places, like their dining room or whatever, the place where they're staying. Don't want to give that away. I don't want to spoil anything. The place where they're staying, or there's like a, I guess, a kind of lounge area where they watch TV. So, how do you not make that boring? Well, you gotta mix it up. People are doing different things. People are sitting in different places. It's not like, oh, we're back in this place and Paul Giamatti sitting in the same spot in the couch, and you know the kitchen lady is not sitting over there and she's not smoking the same cigarette, and the student's not off in the back just chilling, whatever. It's not the same place. People are never in the same place that they were in the last scene, and they're never doing the same thing that they were doing either. And often people will be having conversations, and people do exactly what I brought up, where they go to one room, they bring something to someone else, and you never notice it. It doesn't feel like a deliberate. Where sometimes you do run into movies where it's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna have a conversation where two people talk, but we need to break it up. So I guess you just get up and walk over there, and then you get up, stand up, and turn to face them, and then turn away, and then sit down. It's just like it, whatever. We just need to mix it up a little bit. But like everybody feels like a real person. It's like, yeah, it's not just like nothing in this movie is artificial. Everything feels lived in and real and intimate. Like you probably shouldn't even be watching it, because like we learn like everybody's deepest darkest secrets, and I think it really plays into that where it's like, you know, I guess humans are kind of creatures of habit, but also like they need to like do things for others. And especially these people, they all have their own baggage, but and in their essence, they are compassionate people. And so there is a lot of instances of them doing things for other people. And I just think that this movie is very, very effective at what it does. So that's the moral of the story, is that this movie is very well done and that you should watch it. I think it might be my movie of the year. I'm going to have to look back because this has been a very, very good year. I've gotten, I think, a couple 4.5ers. This one might be a 5, though. This might be a perfect movie. I think I'm going to, because I brought it up, me and my girlfriend were going to see it together, but then this weekend got really crazy at work, so we didn't end up going. But I think I'm gonna take her to go see it, and I that might push it over the edge. But yes, please go see this movie. It came out like a week ago, and it's already getting like 2 screenings a day at my theater, and I'm like, no, please, please, don't let this go away. I don't know what the budget or anything was. I don't know anything about the business end of this movie. Really, I don't care, but I just want this to be. I don't even care if it's like a success. I just want more movies like this to be made because it is very, very good. So that's it. Go see the hit film. Go see Paul Giamatti be an angry guy, which he almost never is. It's crazy. He always plays such lovable people. Also, he kind of looks like a walrus in this movie, and
The
after
whale sequel.
it's the whale sequel. Well, he has just like a really big mustache, and it's just his facial features kind of look like a walrus. And I'm like, oh no, couldn't really unsee that after a while, but now I've just ruined it for everyone. So hopefully they all left when I was talking about business and blocking, which is boring.
Business? Ew.
Ew. I thought that these guys hated business. Um, I I do hate business.
I'm a
President
business
Business.
hater.
President
President
Business
Business.
from the Lego movie. I hate that guy.
Yes.
Played by Will Ferrell. Can choke on a brick. But that's it. That's it for all I have. I'm gonna throw it on over for Babby for whatever he's got cooking.
I have nothing.
Nothing?
I don't think anything came out this week.
Nothing.
Last week was a big week. And then this week, I literally think nothing came out of interest.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's that time of year where I get to re-listen to everything and put my list together. So it's always a fun time of year for me. I like going back and actually like digging into the albums again after I've probably not listened to the full thing in a while. But yeah. So nothing new this week at all. I didn't listen to anything new. I'm just chilling. I need to get my lists together. We need to figure out what we're doing for lists on this, and then I need to figure out those lists as well. I like doing lists. They're stupid and meaningless, but it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like lists. I know that a lot of I don't know about a lot, but I do know that there is a growing population of film critics that are throwing away the ranked list idea and
Mhm.
instead are just saying these are the movies that are worth watching.
Yeah,
I liked ranked lists.
I do too. I think like if you're doing a top 5, it goes without saying that I recommend all of these.
Yeah.
But like, here's the ones that I like the most. You know,
And
it
this
adds a
is
little bit of fun to it.
and this is the person who put Money Plane on his list last year.
Twice,
You put it twice?
I think so.
Wow.
It might make an appearance again this year. I don't know.
Oh. A movie so nice it was on the list twice.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very slow with new movies and with new video games, but I'm on top of music and usually on top of TV. Except I didn't finish Barry yet because we were gonna rewatch it and then we stopped and then we started watching Twin Peaks and it's a bit of a mess right now.
Yeah.
I think I can put together 5 though. It was a good year for TV.
You know, I think the only shows I saw this year was Fiona and Cake, but Succession
Fiona and Cake,
and The Bear.
oh yeah, The Bear.
Spoiler alert, that's probably my show of the year. I don't know. I need to log these things somewhere.
Yeah, I do too. I do it for music and it's so helpful, but everything else I'm just like completely lost.
You should make a Letterboxd account.
I should for like when I watch a movie every 2.5 weeks. Or by that I mean like once a month.
Yeah, I was like 2.5 weeks. That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I don't even know what the last movie I watched was.
The Barbie movie.
Oh yeah, that came out this year, didn't it? I also have issues with like what year things came out.
Yeah,
I feel like that's getting
true.
harder.
Yeah.
With streaming, everything's just kind of there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm really good at like what I saw in theaters this year, but then it's like I think so far I've seen 93 movies this year, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what came out this year, what didn't.
I've
Uh,
seen probably 3.
I know that Barbie and Oppenheimer happened this year.
Yep. Classic.
That was a classic. That was like the only real like movie.
I'm counting Puss in Boots this year because that
Yeah,
was like end of December.
yeah. I think.
So
Yeah,
if you release a piece of media like past like the first week of December, I'm counting it for the following year.
yeah.
That's just my rule.
I know. I think that's fair.
But
So
I'll do some thinking. The music one is like my least of my worries because that's
yeah,
all pretty much good.
yeah. That's
But
true. I was man. I was just like, oh, I'll just go through a channel because I'm pretty sure we reacted to everything that I liked that came out this year. But then I'm like,
mhm,
oh, then there's that new Angelo De Augustine record. We
exactly.
didn't react to that. Um, I don't remember. There was another one. Well, I'm like, oh no, there's two that I need to write down somewhere.
We also did last year like top 5 albums we reacted to during the year. I do like that.
I do like that too.
That's an easy one to do.
Yeah, yeah. And that one's, I don't know if it takes as long because it's just like,
No.
hey, there we go. These are the ones that I like the
Yeah.
best.
And then
Which,
people can go back and watch them.
that's exactly right. Uh, but yeah, yeah, no, I like that. Um, we'll get it figured out. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I don't know. We will give you guys a week's notice whenever it's list week. We still, it's not even December yet as of us
It's gonna go
recording
quick though.
this. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to be the week in between Christmas and New Year's. Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I usually like do these things too late, and then by the time they're up, it's past the typical list week. I
Yeah,
feel like
that's
there's
true.
a specific time when all content creators post their lists, and I'm always late.
Yeah, I don't know when that is. Is that the beginning of
I feel like it's
December?
like the second or third week of December usually.
Okay. Well, next week
So
is
maybe
not going to be
maybe
list week, but maybe the one
maybe the
after.
the week of the 19th or the 12th. Yeah.
19th. Okay. I say 19th. Just for now, a tentative
Yeah.
thing.
Podcast is easy because it's, not a lot of editing. I think the main channel is the harder one to nail down.
That's true.
But
Yeah, we should
we'll
probably
just have
look at
to,
recording that sooner
yeah,
rather
we'll
than
have to
later.
get old Bab Jab on the horn,
Oh
as they
yeah,
say.
wrangle him over.
Hmm.
But we'll get that figured out. I think. Um, but yeah, yeah. Is that it for the podcast then?
I think that's it.
That is it. Wow, this is a boy time mini,
Yes.
essentially. But uh, talk a little bit about the concept of the boy time mini at the beginning. But no, this is a regular episode. But yeah, I think boy time minis are gonna be more like this is what we're talking about. This is there. We have a set
Be more
subject.
focused. Yeah.
Yes. Um,
Maybe we'll do more of those next year and a more of a not formal, but actual segment.
yeah. I do want to. The whole like reason I wanted to talk about Star Wars is because bring up that I was going to do a mini on Star Wars. It's because I want to talk about the sequel trilogy, and I know nobody else cares about it. Um, and I want to give my 2 cents on it because I have a lot of opinions and
Three
thoughts on
cents
it.
even.
3 cents for 3 movies. And I guess theoretically I could just talk about the Disney Star Wars era as a whole, 'cause I have a lot to say about that. Um, Ahsoka, which is one of the blandest milk toast shows of all time, in the Star Wars universe, just got Dave Filoni promoted, and they're looking for a sequel. I'm like, who cares? That show kind of sucked, um, especially after Andor. You know, Andor is so good.
And/or what? That'd be like
Andor,
the only show I'd watch.
Andor is like legitimately a good show. Um, it's funny. There was There was a clip. I think his name is like Star Wars Theory. I think Star Wars Theory is the guy, which he's a weirdo. Um, but he was just like, Andor's the type of show that like you wear a baguette or you wear a like a beret and you go to your film school and you want to see Andor and it's like it was just really boring and I'm like, okay, we just need to make more shows that piss this guy off because he was like
No,
Ahsoka's the
exactly.
best show of all
Yeah.
time and Andor sucks. I'm like, all right.
I think with like data and analytics and algorithm and AI that like predict what people think they want.
Yeah,
I feel like we should just not give people what they want anymore, and things would be a lot better.
I agree. I completely agree.
I completely think that algorithms and like machine learning on behaviors have ruined everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know. I it'll be interesting to see where Marvel goes with all this. Like they have this year alone has been like a dumpster fire.
Huge nosedive.
Except for Guardians 3. That's like the one little eh, but then yeah, just hot garbage. So I don't know. I don't know. Sounds like everything's kind of coming to an end, which I think, you know,
For the best.
end of the superhero movie era.
It should have ended like 4 years ago.
It should have ended with Endgame.
Yeah.
And
That it would have been great. It would have been looked upon in history as pretty good
yeah,
if it would have just ended with that and that was it.
no, I mean like that initial run of the Marvel movies up till Endgame, they weren't perfect, but they were a really solid example where like if you have a plan, you know where it's all gonna go, and you just build to that the entire way for years and years and years and get people attached to those characters, then you can have a really satisfying conclusion and have a saga that a lot of people are going to look back on fondly. What you've done now is just
So you start bringing them back and making everything
uh
meaningless and multi dimensions and
yeah, now that
yeah,
like there's all these the multiverse thing where it's like, oh, no one is ever truly dead. But it's like, okay. Like I
yeah.
heard like Robert Downey Jr. is in talks to return as Iron Man and Chris Evans is in
So
talks to return
stupid.
as Captain America. And it's just like,
It's gonna be like a nostalgia thing, but it literally happened like 5 years ago.
yeah, that's true.
It's
That's true.
crazy.
That's like this is a very specific reference. In the hit film Independence Day, Jeff Goldblum references Jurassic Park, which came out like a couple years before Independence Day came out, where he's like, must go faster, must go faster, must go faster, when they're like talking about blowing up the alien ship. And it's like, why you're talking about, you're making a reference to like, as if it's like something that people like look back on fondly when it came out like 2 years ago.
I guess it aged well, but
It did age well because now it's like, oh, okay, that's the Jurassic Park thing, and people do look back on Jurassic Park
yeah,
fondly. Do people look back on Independence Day fondly?
mm,
I'll let you be the
that's
judge.
debatable.
I'll let you be the judge. All I'm saying is that one of those was directed by the guy who did The Fablemans, and one of those was directed by the guy who did Moonfall.
Mm,
I'll,
I love Moonfall.
you decide who has a better legacy. It was weird. You know, this podcast is pretty short, but like, it was weird that like the 2000s, like everybody was trying to be the next Spielberg. Like Roland Emmerich was trying to do it with like his Independence Day stuff. And then I think M. Night was trying to do that too, but like in a weirdo artsy way where he's like kind of
Yeah,
pretentious. But I do remember like when M. Night was coming up, people were like, "Oh, is he the next Spielberg?" It's like I don't know why you thought that, but I guess that's knowing where he went. It's just like after the Sixth Sense and then like Unbreakable, it'd be like, "Oh, okay, I guess I could see that. He's going somewhere."
and he drops like all these other ones that are just like laughably bad.
Yeah, and then he drops
or
the
incredibly mediocre.
yeah, and then he drops the movie about the beach where you get old.
Called Old.
Old. That's one of my favorite. Like when everybody was making those like AI edits of Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro, where it's like I went to
Yeah.
the beach where I got old.
Yeah.
It's like that's literally impossible. I'm telling you, dude. There's a beach where you get old. Like that's one of my favorites. Look that up if you can.
It's classic
It's very
from
good.
earlier this year.
It's a classic from 6 months ago.
Time is so weird. I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't know either.
Nothing seems to move anymore. Everything's just kind of like here.
But also, like, it's going so fast.
Yeah.
Is this just like what getting older is?
Old?
Old? The beach where we
Like the
get
movie.
old? Oh, that's what it is.
Maybe life is just one big beach and we all get old.
Wow.
Maybe
That's
that
really
was the
cool.
message of the movie. I didn't see it, but
I
it's
don't
probably a better message than the movie had.
I don't know. All I know about the movie is that I think one of them shows up pregnant and then like they give birth and then like the kid I think like people spontaneously get pregnant, I think. That's what I've
That's
heard
awesome.
about that movie is that it's like, "Oh, I was 15 when I got here and now I'm pregnant now that I'm on the beach where I get old."
That
Which is
sounds like a great movie.
well, I don't wait. This is something that M. Night probably didn't even think about. But like if you're on a beach where you get old, like
Uh-huh.
and you're a lady and you have a
Uh-huh.
bunch of eggs in your ovaries, would your eggs and your ovaries get old when you're on the beach where you get old? Because they're on the
That's a good
beach where they
point.
get old.
That's true. I hope they do like a deep dive into the anatomy in that movie to like make sure it really makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be really good. I don't I need to see Old. It's probably the best movie of all time.
I'm sure. Maybe,
Fall,
maybe that's one we'll watch when you come up. Then we'll talk about Old.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend the valuable time we have together watching Old.
Watching Old.
Watching the beach where you get old. Yeah, I'll watch it tomorrow, actually.
When did that come out? Last year?
I think 2 years ago. Because Knock at the
Okay.
Cabin came out this year.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Old. Yeah, 2021. Old. I can't wait for what M. Night's going to do next. I sure hope Dave
Young.
Bautista is in it. Yeah. It's a beach where you get young. It's a Benjamin Button beach.
Yes.
That would be good. They should do that. Get Brad Pitt.
Don't give him any ideas.
I don't think Old was successful enough to warrant a sequel.
No. But who knows?
What would be really good is if Old was in the split Unbreakable universe and the
Ooh.
beach is a superhero.
You see, that's how you got to do it now, because that's the only thing that sells, apparently.
Yeah, you gotta have it be an existing IP.
Yeah.
That was like the kind of cool thing about the ending of Split is that Bruce Willis was there, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then they made a whole movie about it.
It's like so played out at this point where it's like, that doesn't surprise me when that happens anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I saw even small like art house horror movies are like immediately doing that. Where it's like that Talk to Me movie. It like just came out like a couple months ago and like people were raving about it. Like, wow, this is a fresh new take on horror. It's great. And immediately they're like, oh, sequel. It's coming out like relatively soon. And it's like, oh, stop. Why? Or
They did
even
that with Morbius too. They tried to do an end credit scene to set up the second movie, and then like it bombed so hard.
have you seen people have been posting that end credit scene? Have you seen it?
I don't know if I stayed long enough because I watched Morbius on the Twitch stream that played
Oh,
it
that's right.
24/7. I don't know if that stream played the after credit scene.
Okay, well, the after credit scene, it plays into the whole multiverse thing that
Oh,
Marvel's
of course
doing.
it does.
but Morbius is like standing on a beach, and
Or
then
he gets old.
not he doesn't get old. Well, he's a vampire. He can't die.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's on a beach, and then the Vulture shows up from Spider-Man Homecoming,
Oh,
and he doesn't take his helmet off because they couldn't afford Michael Keaton to show up
uh,
on set for one day, but they got him in voiceover, and he's like, I'm trying to figure out how this world works. Wanna team up with me, buddy? It's like just the worst dialogue ever, and then it's
oh
just
my god.
Morbius staring at him, and I'm like, what is happening? It's like, why is the MCU Vulture talking to Morbius right now?
Yeah. I feel like superhero movies also ruined after credit scenes.
They were the ones that started it.
They were, but it got really bad really quickly.
Yeah, that's true. Like they used to be
Fast and the
fun.
Furious does it though, and it's really funny when Fast and the Furious does it.
Yeah, or
Because
even
they'll like kill Han for like the fifth time, and then he'll like show up alive at the after credit scene.
he's like O.J. Simpson in the Naked
Yeah,
Gun movies. Where he just like keeps getting hurt and coming back, and he's fine. Yeah, but like you go back to like even the first Avengers movie, the after credit scene is not like setting up the next one. It's just like
hmm
they go and get food.
yeah,
They get
which I feel
shawarma.
like is what an after credits scene should probably be.
Yeah, it's a nice little button. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's fun. Just a fun little thing to end it off on. It's not like, oh, hell yeah, Hercules shows up at the end of Thor 4. I'm so excited for
let's
Hercules to
go.
show up. Played by the guy from Ted Lasso. That's what I want. I'm so excited. Which, speaking of, Taika Waititi's like, I didn't want to do the third Thor movie, and then they made me do the fourth one. I'm like, okay, everything's starting to make sense now.
Yeah,
Which he's having his new movie is coming out, which I've not heard anything about. Except I think it sounds like people are done with Taika Waititi, which I mean, fair,
understandable,
fair,
honestly.
fair. You know, Thor 4 was not very good, and I think we are long since the days of What We Do in the Shadows. Taika Waititi. It's kind of,
Yeah, although that
although
show is still good,
the show
but
is great.
yeah, it's fantastic.
I will say I think people are this podcast is completely off the rails.
That's
But
what this week is.
that's fine. But I do think that people are taking his statements and taking them literally. When okay, here's here's an example, because I think he was talking about. I might have to look up the quote because people are taking it seriously. Let me see. Bible quote. Yeah, okay. Here's the quote. And I think he's being like kind of he's joking around, and people are thinking he's like really pretentious. But this is what he said. I mean, in the Bible, they took real life things that happened and then they added, magic. I'm just like the guy who wrote the Bible, bro. And and it's like that's funny. Saying I'm just like the guy who wrote the Bible when it's like I don't think it was one guy. But I will say that that's a better response to like changing up things that happened in a real world event than like what Ridley Scott did. He's just like,
Yeah, or
I
he's
hate
like,
you.
I don't care
I
about
don't
history. You
care about
suck.
you.
Get a life.
I want Napoleon to shoot at the pyramids. I
Yeah,
don't care if that never happened. And if you do care about it, then you suck.
I will make him 6'2", and you'll like it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But then people were like, I saw people tweeting like, "Wow, Taika Waititi compared himself to God." When okay, I don't think that's what's happening. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'm a Taika Waititi apologist or anything, but I don't think people are. I think people are overblowing this whole thing.
I feel like he's the kind of guy that I would never want to hear speak, but I'll watch some of his stuff
Yeah, he's kind of a
if that
weird
makes sense.
guy.
Yeah,
Of like interviews, he's like, okay, the only thing that I've seen from him was in the lead up to Thor 4, and you could tell that he didn't care at all. And people were upset where it's like, why aren't you taking this fourth Thor movie seriously? It's like, because it's the fourth Thor movie. That's why it's not taking it seriously. And yeah, so I think he's just like maybe thrown in the towel and it's like, whatever. I do kind of want to see after this because I think he's kind of in like the Disney sphere now. I mean, he's like, I think he's writing a Star Wars movie. It's just like,
it's gonna ruin him.
yeah, I want him to like just get out and like start making small indie movies again. Cause like What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, even Jojo Rabbit, which it was like, it kind of snuck out like while he's getting churned up by the studio system. Like those are all like really, really good movies. And he's like a really talented comedic writer. So it's kind of sad that he's getting, you know, Disneyified and he has to work with all these suits that are like, you know, making him do all sorts of things. And now that Dave Filoni is in charge, he's going to be like, oh, you have to include this character from this. Like, Dave Filoni is trying to be the new Kevin Feige. And it's like, man, everything just needs to stop, you know?
Correct.
But I'll keep watching it because
I won't.
I'm a shill. I wasn't even planning on watching Ahsoka, and then like there was like I was 3 episodes like I don't even care, and I saw something and it was like this is the best shot of anything I've ever seen, and it was like Anakin
Just a
walking.
normal shot.
Yeah, it was a shot of Anakin, and then it like flashed to Vader for a second, and then back to Anakin, and I'm like this is really like small. Like this does not deserve
Yeah.
that this is the best shot I've ever seen in any movie ever. And just like, okay, I'll watch the show and see if it's better with context. It was not better with context. It was it was as small as you could probably expect. I will say that anytime like they do this too with like Vader when it like flashes to Anakin or whatever, it's so lame. It's like I get it.
It's like, you know,
Yeah, yeah. It's just like who cares? Like that's
like
not.
that lost kind of steam, like, I don't know, 30 years ago.
Yeah, long. I mean, Return of the Jedi came out in '83.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's like yeah, we've known since Empire Strikes Back, it came out in '81.
Yeah.
Like that's like
Like, if you still don't, you don't need to do visual metaphor like that.
no, no. Yeah, yeah.
This is just turning into a hater podcast, which
That's
honestly,
okay.
I'm here for.
It's okay. You can do that. I spent like the first 40 minutes praising something, so we can spend the end of it
Gotta
just
sprinkle
tearing
in the
it all
hate.
apart.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what else there is to hate on right now.
All right.
We talked about Marvel and Star Wars. The James Gunn DC verse hasn't happened yet. Although I think when it finally comes out, it's going to be too late. Once Superman Legacy comes out, I think either next year or the year after. I don't know. I think the superhero craze might be over. I mean, I feel like it's over right
I
now.
hope so. I really hope so.
I mean, they're still going to be making movies and they're still going to be successful, but I don't think that people are going to be talking about them.
Yeah.
In
I
the
mean,
same
as
way.
annoying as Oppenheimer was, I think that's a good sign that, like, making movies that are actually not about a superhero and are just, like, you know, very different than what you'd see from a blockbuster is good, actually.
Yeah. And what I will say about Oppenheimer, I know I was very negative when the marketing was coming out, and it was like this is the most important thing that has happened in the history of mankind. And I'm like, that's,
I mean,
yeah,
the bomb is pretty important.
yeah, it's
to
important, but
current
you don't need to
day,
say
but
it.
It's not like, yeah.
It's not you don't have to spell everything out. And I get that it's a
Yeah.
trailer, but like I've also heard that like the movie is just people talking, and like that kind of talk that's it's really only in the trailer. And I'm like, okay, I like that. I do like when marketing is intentionally misleading,
Yes.
which I know we have not talked about pure comedy, but that has one of my favorite lead-in singles stories of all time, where the single is his. I think it's his most popular song, or maybe it's after the one he did with Lana Del Rey. But it's like "Real Love,
Oh, yeah, I
Baby."
forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the I hate the new album cover. They like replaced it with like some folky text or whatever. But like the
Eh,
original album cover was just like this it was just like cotton
Oh yeah.
candy vomit. Like it was just like pixelated, like just really flashy colors. And I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's noisy, but it's just like it's just the most sugary thing ever. If you like put happy feelings into like an AI generator 2 years ago, that's what it would have came up with. And it's just like this really corny love song that's just like it's the same. It's a verse chorus, and then that's it. And the verses and the choruses are exactly the same, which of course means it's very like catchy. But that leads into pure comedy, which you know is not full of corny love songs.
One.
I know, but that's such like a huge troll thing to do, to just be
Yeah.
like, this is what we're
I
getting.
love that. I love that.
I
That's
love
what that
that
Blur
too.
album did. We listened to as well.
Oh, did they
Where
do
it was
that?
like, yeah, because it was, I think Tender was the first song on that, and it was just like a chill, like alt country type live setting song, and then the album just got like extremely depressing immediately after.
That's right. Oh man.
I want to be tricked more.
I do too. I do too.
Add suspense.
I'm trying to think if any I can't think of any other examples off the top of my head, but I love being tricked, or even if it's
Yeah,
just like different. You know, the
exactly.
I single version and I album version from To Pimp a Butterfly. I love that. You know, don't
Exactly.
have to
I
listen
mean,
to the
I
same
think I'm
song
just on a
again.
Lynch kick because we're deep in Twin Peaks, but it's like
Mm.
that's not what you want, but
Oh
he's giving it
no.
to you, and that's how it is, and it's better for it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I'm sure you know this, but when Fire Walk with Me came out, it was
Oh
a
yeah,
huge
it
failure.
was like yeah,
Nobody liked it
everybody
because
wanted
David Lynch.
answers, and then
Yeah.
it was like David Lynch is like, you already have the answers. Watch the movie. You're missing the point.
Well, it's just so tonally different.
It
Where it was
is,
just
but it's
like,
like oh
I don't know what you would want, because Twin Peaks, the original show, it's kind of a, I don't want to say parody, but it's a like play on like the primetime soap opera.
yeah, exactly. It's a meta commentary on TV.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think the first shot of Fire Walk with Me is a TV getting smashed in with a hammer.
Yep. And like we were watching it, and it's like the FBI goes to like investigate Teresa Banks, and the sheriff's name's literally Sheriff Cable.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
it's like all those fun little things when you like understand a little bit.
Yeah, where
I'm like, he's just toying with it. It's great.
yeah. And even I think the beginning of Twin Peaks: The Return, it's just like this guy's watching a black void,
Hmm.
and it's just like that's what TV is. You're just sitting down and watching nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I don't always vibe with David Lynch's stuff. He's very very smart, and
He is brilliant
he he is a genius
in his own little way.
in his own little way, and he's
We'll
very
talk
funny.
about that next year, probably.
Yeah, at some point. I do need to
Deal.
see more of his things. Like
I do too.
I need to see Inland Empire. Um, I need to see Blue Velvet, and I need to
Oh,
see Dune,
the best one.
the best one.
Could do that right before Dune 2 comes out next year.
Yeah, I guess. I don't want to see David Lynch's Dune. Although it could be
Dune.
interesting. I know that Sting is in it, and
Oh,
yeah, I don't know who his who his Denis Villeneuve version is. But he works with the Harkonnens, who is like the big guy who floats in the air, the bad guys. Sting works for them. And there's also a scene where they're milking a cat. The Harkonnens are.
awesome.
It's like a hairless cat. They milk it. And I think there's a scene where they have a mouse taped to a cat. It you know, it really feels like the Dune we all know and love today.
It really does.
Yeah. But I guess that'll do it for this podcast. Kind of got off the rails there at the end, but that's okay.
It's content.
It's
You like it.
content. Sometimes we just got to talk about stuff that happens.
Sometimes those are the best episodes. So
I think so. I think this is a good episode. I like talking.
la 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 la.
Okay. Bye bye, man.